Jiho's hands shook as he pressed the emergency broadcast button for the 100th time that day. The communication room around him was filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. Outside the reinforced windows, he could see the orange glow of fires spreading across his beautiful city. The Krellian ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, raining death on everything below. Jiho had watched them arrive 3 days ago. At first, the Verdani people thought they could talk to these invaders. The Verdani were good at talking. They had solved every problem with words for thousands of years, but the Krellians did not want to talk. Emergency broadcast to all listening stations. Jiho spoke into his microphone, trying to keep his voice steady. This is Verdani homeworld, calling for immediate assistance. We are under attack by Krellian forces. Our defenses are failing. We need help. Please respond. The only answer was silence. Elder Tai Min walked into the communication room, his long robes torn and dirty. The old Verdani leader looked tired. Very tired. His usually bright green skin had turned pale, and his large eyes showed fear. Any response? Jiho? Tai Min asked, though they both knew the answer. Nothing from the Galactic Union, Elder. I sent messages to every member world. Some replied that they would consider sending aid, but... Jiho's voice trailed off. But they are afraid, Tai Min finished. The Krellians are too strong. No one wants to fight them. Another explosion shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. Through the windows, they could see a Krellian dropship landing in the city square. Metal soldiers poured out, their weapons ready. Jiho's people were not fighters. They were healers, scientists, and artists. Their weapons were medical, tools and farming equipment. Against the Krellian war machines, they might as well throw flowers. Elder, there is something, Jiho said suddenly. He had been thinking about it for hours, but was afraid to try. In the old archives, I found records of an ancient frequency. It reaches beyond our normal space, into areas we have never explored. Tai Min's eyes widened. The deep void frequencies? Those are just legends, child. Maybe not. Jiho pulled up the old files on his screen. Look at these patterns. They are real transmission codes, very old, but real. The building shook again. This time they heard the sound of metal feet in the hallway below. The Krellian soldiers were inside the communication center. We have maybe 10 minutes before they reach us, Tai Min said. Try it. Jiho's fingers flew over the controls. He adjusted the transmission array to the ancient frequency patterns. The equipment was not designed for this, and warning lights flashed red across his console. Emergency broadcast on all frequencies, including deep void channels, Jiho began. His voice was stronger now. If this was his last message, he would make it count. This is Verdani homeworld to any listening stations. We are a peaceful people under attack by the Krellian Empire. Our cities are burning. Our people are dying. We have no weapons to fight them. If anyone can hear this message, please help us. We do not ask for much. Just help us survive. He sent the message and waited. The sounds of fighting were getting closer. Through his equipment, he could hear radio chatter from Krellian forces. They were spreading through the city like a disease. For long minutes, there was nothing. Then, his radio crackled to life. The voice that came through was unlike anything Jiho had ever heard. It was rough and deep, speaking Galactic Standard with a strange accent. The words were broken, like whoever was speaking had learned the language from old books. Message received, the voice said slowly. Location confirmed. Verdani homeworld, under attack by Krellians. Jiho's heart jumped. Yes, we are under attack. Can you help us? Who are you? There was a long pause. In the background of the transmission, Jiho could hear strange sounds, loud music, shouting voices, and mechanical noises he could not identify. We are... Another pause. Humans. From Earth. Help is coming. Humans. Jiho had never heard of this species. Are you with the Galactic Union? Negative. We are independent. But when someone calls for help, the voice got clearer, like the speaker was getting used to the language. We answer. Elder Taemin grabbed Jiho's arm. Ask them how many ships they have. Ask them when they can arrive. But before Jiho could speak, the human voice continued. Verdani people, this is Admiral Hei-Wan of the Earth Defense Fleet. I want you to listen carefully. We are coming to help you, but we are not like other species. We fight differently. When we arrive, stay in your shelters. Do not come out until we tell you it is safe. How many ships do you have? Jiho asked. Enough. The reply was simple, but somehow reassuring. We will be there in 2 standard days. Until then, hide. Fight if you must, but stay alive. We are coming. The transmission cut off. Jiho stared at his equipment, hardly believing what had just happened. Someone had answered. Someone was coming to help. Humans, Taemin repeated the word slowly. I have never heard of them. Have you? Jiho searched his database quickly. Nothing in our records. But Elder, they said they fight differently. What do you think that means? Before Taemin could answer, the door to the communication room exploded inward. 3 Krellian soldiers stepped through the smoke, their black armor reflecting the light from the fires outside. Their weapons were pointed at Jiho and Taemin. Surrender, one of them said in perfect Verdani. Your city is ours now. Taemin stepped forward, his hands raised. We surrender. We are not fighters. The lead Krellian soldier laughed. It was a cold sound. Smart choice. Your weapons are useless against us anyway. No one is coming to save you. Jiho said nothing, but inside his heart, he held on to the words of the strange human admiral. Help was coming. He did not know what humans were or how they fought, but they had answered when no one else would. As the Krellian soldiers led them away, Jiho looked back at his communication equipment one last time. Somewhere in the deep void of space, someone had heard their call. Someone was coming. 2 days. They just had to survive for 2 more days. Outside, the city continued to burn, but for the first time since the attack began, Jiho felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Admiral Hei-Wan stood in the command center of Luna Base, looking at the star map displayed on the main screen. The base was built inside an old crater on Earth's moon, its metal walls thick enough to protect against asteroid impacts. Through the reinforced windows, she could see Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue jewel. Admiral, we have an incoming transmission, called Communications Officer Jae-sung from his station. It's coming through on one of the deep void frequencies. Hei-Wan turned. Deep void transmissions were rare. Most species did not even know those frequencies existed. Put it through. The message that played made everyone in the command center stop what they were doing. The voice was desperate, frightened, but trying to be brave. It spoke of burning cities, dying people, and an enemy too strong to fight. Verdani homeworld, Jae-sung said, checking his database. Small species on the outer rim. They are known for medical research and peace negotiations. And they are under attack by Krellians, added Intelligence Officer Kyung-ho. I have reports here. The Krellian Empire has been expanding for months. They want the Verdani medical technology. Captain Dong-hyun, the Marine commander, walked over to the star map. His uniform was covered with combat ribbons from a dozen different conflicts. Krellians are tough fighters, Admiral. They have been at war for centuries. These Verdani people don't stand a chance. Dr. So Young, the chief medical officer, looked up from her tablet. The Verdani are herbivores, Captain. They have no natural weapons, no fighting instincts. This is not a war. It is a massacre. Hei-Wan studied the map. The Verdani system was far from Earth, outside of normal human patrol routes. Have they asked the Galactic Union for help? Yes, Kyung-ho replied. The Union is debating what to do. They have been debating for 3 days while the Krellians burned Verdani cities. The command center fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Galactic Union was afraid. The Krellians were too strong, and no one wanted to fight them. Admiral, said Engineer Wu Jin from his workstation, it would take us 2 days to reach the Verdani system. We have 12 ships ready for immediate deployment. 12 ships against a Krellian invasion fleet? Dong-hyun whistled softly. Those are not good odds. Hae-won had been an admiral for 15 years. She had fought pirates, rebels, and hostile alien species. She had seen the best and worst of what the galaxy had to offer, but she had never forgotten the lessons her grandfather taught her as a child. When someone calls for help, you answer, she said quietly. It does not matter if they are human or alien. It does not matter if the odds are bad. You answer. Admiral, So-young said carefully, humans are still new to the galactic community. We have been members of the Union for only 50 years. If we attack the Krellians without permission, then we attack them without permission. Hae-won's voice was firm. Jae-sung, open a channel to all fleet commanders. The communication officer's fingers flew over his controls. Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Hae-won to all fleet commanders, she began. We have received a distress call from the Verdani homeworld. They are under attack by Krellian forces. I am ordering immediate deployment of all available ships. The responses came quickly through the speakers. Captain Min-ho of the destroyer Seoul. Ready for deployment, Admiral. Captain Young-soo of the fighter carrier. Busan. My pilots are standing by. One by one, the other ship commanders confirmed their readiness. Admiral, Kyung-ho said, I should mention something. The other galactic species, they call us Deathworlders. Hae-won smiled grimly. She knew about the nickname. Earth was considered a death world by most galactic standards. The gravity was too high, the weather too violent, the animals too dangerous. Most species thought humans were crazy for evolving on such a hostile planet. Let them call us Deathworlders, she said. Today, that might be exactly what the Verdani people need. Wu Jin looked up from his console. Admiral, I have fleet status reports. All ships are loaded with full ammunition. Marine units are aboard and ready for combat operations. What about medical supplies? So-young asked. Fully stocked, Wu Jin replied. Food, medicine, everything needed for humanitarian aid. Hae-won nodded. This was how humans fought. They brought weapons for their enemies and aid for their friends. It was not the way other species operated, but it was the human way. Jae-sung, send a response to the Verdani transmission, she ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Hae-won took a deep breath. She knew her words would be recorded and studied by every government in the galaxy. What she said next would either start a war or save a civilization. Verdani people, this is Admiral Hae-won of the Earth Defense Fleet. I want you to listen carefully. We are coming to help you, but we are not like other species. We fight differently. When we arrive, stay in your shelters. Do not come out until we tell you it is safe. She paused, thinking about what else to say. How do you explain to a peaceful species that their rescuers might be more frightening than their enemies? We will be there in 2 standard days. Until then, hide. Fight if you must, but stay alive. We are coming. The transmission ended. The command center was quiet for a moment. Admiral, Dong-hyun said slowly, when the Krellians see our ships, they are going to think we are invaders too. Maybe, Hae-won replied, but when they see how we fight, they will learn the difference between invaders and liberators. Within an hour, the human fleet was ready. 12 ships, each one designed for war. They were not beautiful like the elegant vessels of other species. Human ships were built like hammers, heavy and strong, covered with weapons and armor. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, reports came in from across the galaxy. The Galactic Union had detected the human fleet movement. Some species were concerned. Others were curious. A few were frightened. "Admiral," Kyung-ho reported, "the Galactic Union is demanding to know our intentions." "Tell them our intentions are to help people who asked for help," Haewon replied. "If they have a problem with that, they can discuss it with us after we save the Verdani." The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving Earth's solar system behind. In the void between stars, 12 human ships raced toward a small world where people were dying and calling for help. Behind them, the galaxy watched and wondered. What would happen when the Deathworlders arrived at the battle? Fleet Admiral Zorth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The Verdani system was almost completely under Krellian control. Their weak defenses had crumbled in hours, and their pathetic calls for help had gone unanswered. "Status report," Zorth commanded, his forearms crossed behind his back. Like all Krellians, he was tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes that showed no mercy. "The planet's major cities are secured," reported his tactical officer. "Resistance is minimal. The Verdani are hiding in underground shelters, but our ground forces are hunting them down." Zorth nodded. This was going exactly as planned. The Verdani medical technology would make the Krellian Empire even stronger. Soon, they would move on to the next weak species. "Admiral," called the sensor operator suddenly, "I am detecting massive energy signatures approaching the system edge." Zorth turned. "Galactic Union reinforcements?" "Unknown, sir. The signatures are unusual. Very large ships, but the design patterns do not match any known species." "Show me," Zorth ordered. The main screen changed to show the edge of the system. Space seemed empty, but the sensors showed something big approaching. Very big. Then 12 ships dropped out of hyperspace. Zorth stared at the display. The ships that appeared were like nothing he had ever seen. They were angular and brutal-looking, covered with weapons and armor plating. No elegant curves or artistic. Designs like most galactic vessels. These ships looked like they were built for one purpose: war. "What species builds ships like that?" Zorth asked. His tactical officer checked the database. "Unknown, Admiral. I have never seen designs like these." "Are they responding to communication requests?" "Yes, sir. They are broadcasting identification codes in multiple languages. Most of them are unknown, but there is one in Galactic Standard." "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was rough and strong. It spoke Galactic Standard with a strange accent, but the words were clear. "This is Captain Minho of the Earth vessel Sol, speaking for the human fleet. Krellian vessels. You are ordered to withdraw from Verdani space immediately." "Human?" Zorth had never heard of this species. "What is your authority here?" "Our authority," Minho replied, "is that the Verdani people asked for help." Zorth laughed. "I have 40 ships in this system. You have 12. Withdraw now or be destroyed." There was a pause. Then Minho's voice came back, and there was something in it that made Zorth's skin crawl. "Admiral Zorth, I believe you do not understand who you are talking to. Allow me to educate you." Suddenly, all human ships began broadcasting on multiple frequencies. The Krellian communication systems were flooded with music unlike anything they had ever heard. It was loud, aggressive, and somehow frightening. Along with the music came images. The images showed human soldiers in combat. Zorth watched in growing horror as he saw humans fighting in conditions that would kill most species. They fought in burning cities, underwater, in toxic atmosphere, even in zero gravity without life support. They used weapons that seemed designed to cause maximum damage, and they fought with a fury that seemed almost insane. "What are these creatures?" whispered Zorth's tactical officer. The images continued. Humans fighting giant predators with nothing but metal blades. Humans surviving on planets where the temperature would boil most species' blood. Humans charging into enemy fire while screaming battle cries. "Admiral," Minho's voice cut through the music. "These are humans. We come from a world that most species call a death world. We evolved fighting everything on our planet that wanted to kill us. And now, we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." Zorth tried to maintain his composure. "You are trying to intimidate us with propaganda." "No," Minho replied calmly. "We are trying to give you a chance to leave before we show you what we really are." The human ships began to move. They did not form the neat battle lines that Krellian doctrine taught. Instead, they spread out in a pattern that seemed random but somehow threatening. It was like watching a pack of predators surround their prey. "Admiral," his tactical officer said urgently, "the humans are scanning our ships with some kind of advanced sensor. They seem to be looking for weaknesses in our armor." "All ships, prepare for battle," Zorth ordered. "These primitive Deathworlders think they can frighten us with their savage displays." The first shots came from the human ships. Their weapons were different from standard galactic technology. Instead of clean energy beams, they fired projectiles and explosives that tore through Krellian shields like they were made of paper. But it was not just the weapons that shocked Zorth. It was how the humans used them. The human ships did not follow standard combat patterns. They attacked from multiple directions at once, using tactics that seemed suicidal, but somehow worked. One human ship flew directly through a formation of Krellian vessels, firing in all directions and somehow avoiding every shot aimed at it. "How are they doing that?" Zorth demanded. "Their pilots are flying patterns that should be impossible," his tactical officer replied. "No computer could calculate those movements. They must be flying manually." Manually? Zorth could not believe it. At those speeds? On the tactical display, Zorth watched as a single human fighter attacked one of his destroyers. The fighter was tiny compared to the destroyer, but it moved like a living thing, dodging energy beams and launching missiles that found every weak point in the destroyer's armor. The destroyer exploded. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the planet. The Verdani are coming out of their shelters." "What? Why?" Before anyone could answer, Jiho's voice came through the speakers. The young Verdani sounded excited and hopeful. "Human ships, this is Jiho from Verdani Communications. We can see the battle from here. Are you really going to save us?" Minho's voice responded immediately. "Jiho, get your people back in the shelters. We are not done here yet." "But you are winning," Jiho said. "The Krellian ships are retreating." Zorth looked at his tactical display. It was true. His ships were pulling back, and several were already jumping to hyperspace. In less than an hour, the humans had broken a Krellian fleet that had taken 3 days to capture the system. "Admiral," his tactical officer said quietly, "we should withdraw. These humans fight like nothing I have ever seen. They are not afraid to die." Zorth stared at the human ships on his screen. They were damaged, but still fighting. One ship was venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, but it was still firing its weapons. "All ships," he ordered reluctantly, "begin withdrawal to hyperspace." As the Krellian fleet retreated, Minho's voice came through the communication. "System 1 last time. Admiral Zorth, take this message back to your empire. The Verdani people are under human protection now. If you come back, we will be waiting." The last thing Zorth saw as his ship jumped to hyperspace was the human fleet moving toward the planet. The Verdani were safe, and the galaxy had learned something new about the species called humans. They were not just Deathworlders, they were protectors. And that might be even more frightening. Admiral Haywan watched the tactical display from the bridge of her flagship, the Incheon. The first battle with the Krellian blockade had gone well, but she knew it was just the beginning. The enemy ships that had retreated were regrouping on the far side of the system, and more Krellian reinforcements were arriving every hour. Status report, she called to her bridge crew. Tactical Officer Su-Jin looked up from her console. We damaged or destroyed 8 Krellian ships in the first engagement. Our losses are minimal. The Sol has hull damage, and the Daegu lost 2 fighter squadrons. The Krellians are learning to adapt to our tactics, Communications Officer Jae Sung reported. They are staying in tight formations now, trying to use their superior numbers. Hae-won nodded. The Krellians were experienced fighters. They would not make the same mistakes twice. But humans had something the Krellians did not understand: the ability to improvise. Su-Jin, what is the status of our boarding teams? Marine Sergeant In-suk reports her teams are ready for assault operations. She says her soldiers are eager to try close combat with Krellians. Through the bridge windows, Hae-won could see the human fighter squadrons preparing for another attack. The small ships moved in formation like a school of deadly fish. Leading them was pilot Young-soo, whose reckless flying style had already become legendary among the human crews. Admiral, Jae-sung called out, I am receiving a transmission from the Krellian fleet. Admiral Zorth wants to negotiate. Put him through. Zorth's image appeared on the main screen. The Krellian admiral looked angry and frustrated. Behind him, Hae-won could see the bridge of his flagship, which showed signs of damage from the recent battle. Human Admiral, Zorth began, you have impressed us with your unique fighting style, but you cannot win. I have 60 ships now, and more are coming. Surrender, and we will allow you to leave this system. Hae-won smiled coldly. Admiral Zorth, let me explain something about humans. We do not surrender. Ever. Then you will die here. Maybe, Hae-won replied, but we will take many of you with us, and the galaxy will remember that when the Verdani called for help, humans answered. Zorth's expression changed. For a moment he looked confused. Why do you care about these creatures? They are not your species. You gain nothing by protecting them. We gain everything, Hae-won said. We gain the knowledge that we did what was right. The transmission ended. Zorth clearly did not understand human motivation, and that would be another advantage in the coming battle. All ships, this is Admiral Hae-won, she announced on the fleet channel. The Krellians think they have us outnumbered. They think their superior technology and tactics will win the day. They are about to learn why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders. The second battle began with a surprise. Instead of engaging the main Krellian fleet, Young-soo led his fighter squadrons on a direct attack toward the planet's surface. The Krellians had established orbital weapons platforms to bombard Verdani cities, and Young-soo's mission was to destroy them. Young-soo, you are flying directly into the enemy's defensive grid, Su-Jin called over the radio. Those platforms have enough firepower to destroy a battleship. Then it is a good thing I am not flying a battleship, Young-soo replied with a laugh. Hae-won watched as the human fighters dove toward the planet. The Krellian platforms opened fire, filling space with energy beams and missile trails. Any sane pilot would have turned away from such overwhelming firepower. Human pilots were not sane by galactic standards. Young-soo's squadron flew through the defensive fire like they were dancing. Their ships twisted and rolled in patterns that seemed impossible, dodging attacks by mere meters. Several fighters were hit and destroyed, but the rest kept coming. How are they doing that? Su-Jin whispered. Human reflexes, Hae-won replied. We evolved on a world where everything wanted to kill us. Fast reflexes were required for survival. Young-soo reached the first orbital platform and launched his missiles at point-blank range. The platform exploded in a ball of fire. His wingman took out the second platform, and within minutes, all the orbital weapons were destroyed. But the real surprise came when Young-soo's damaged fighter began diving toward the largest Krellian ship in orbit. Young-soo, what are you doing? Hae-won called over the radio. My fighter is too damaged to return to the carrier, Young-soo replied calmly. But I still have one missile left. Hae-won realized what he was planning. Young Su, no. Return to base. Sorry, Admiral. Sometimes the only way to win is to sacrifice everything. Young Su's fighter slammed into the Krellian ship's bridge, his last missile detonating on impact. The enemy ship lost control and crashed into another Krellian vessel. Both ships were destroyed. The human fleet fell silent for a moment, honoring their fallen comrade. Then they resumed the attack with renewed fury. While the fighter battle raged in orbit, Sergeant In-suk was leading a different kind of assault. Her Marines had used boarding pods to breach the hulls of 3 Krellian ships. Now they were fighting, hand-to-hand combat in the enemy's corridors. Most galactic species had abandoned boarding tactics centuries ago. They considered close combat too primitive and dangerous, but humans specialized in fighting in close quarters. Corridor secured, In-suk reported over her radio. Moving to the engine room. The Krellian soldiers were taller and stronger than humans, but they were not prepared for the intensity of human close combat. In-suk's Marines fought with knives, shotguns, and grenades in the narrow ship corridors. They showed no fear, no hesitation. Within an hour, In-suk's team had captured the bridge of a Krellian cruiser. She personally arrested the ship's captain, a proud Krellian warrior who could not believe he had been defeated by creatures half his size. How? The Krellian captain asked as In-suk put him in restraints. How do you fight like this? Practice, In-suk replied simply. While the Marines were capturing ships and the fighters were destroying orbital platforms, Intelligence Officer Kyung-ho was conducting psychological warfare. He had hacked into Krellian communication systems and was broadcasting human military footage directly to enemy ships. The footage showed human soldiers in combat throughout history. Kyung-ho had carefully selected the most impressive examples. Humans fighting impossible odds, surviving in terrible conditions, and never giving up even when defeat seemed certain. What is the purpose of this? Admiral Zorth demanded when he called Haewon again. Education, Haewon replied. We want your soldiers to understand exactly what they are fighting. The psychological effect was immediate. Krellian ship crews began requesting transfers away from the front lines. Some ships developed mysterious technical problems that forced them to withdraw. A few ships simply jumped to hyperspace without orders. Field medic Yoonji was working frantically in the medical bay of the Seoul, treating wounded from both sides of the battle. When In-suk's Marines brought in captured Krellian soldiers, Yoonji treated their injuries with the same care she gave to human patients. Why do you help our enemies? Asked a wounded Krellian soldier. Because you are not our enemy anymore, Yoonji replied as she bandaged his wounds. You are a patient. The Krellian looked confused. But we attacked your people. You attacked the Verdani people. We came to help them. Now that you are wounded and captured, you are under our protection too. This was another thing that confused the Krellians. Humans fought with terrible fury, but they also showed mercy to defeated enemies. It was a contradiction that Krellian military doctrine could not explain. By the end of the day, the second battle was over. The Krellian fleet had lost 20 ships and was in full retreat. Several Krellian vessels had surrendered, rather than face human boarding teams. Others had developed equipment failures and jumped to hyperspace. Admiral, Sujin reported, the remaining Krellian ships are withdrawing to the outer system. They seem to be waiting for reinforcements. Haewon looked at the tactical display. The human fleet had won another victory, but at a cost. They had lost fighters and several ships were badly damaged. The Krellians would be back with more ships and new tactics. But something else had changed. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. News of the human victories was spreading, and other species were taking notice. Some were afraid, others were impressed, but all of them were talking about the Deathworlders who had answered a call for help. Jae-sung, open a channel to the planet, Haewon ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Ji-ho, this is Admiral Haewon. How are your people? Ji-ho's voice came through the speakers, filled with gratitude and amazement. Admiral, we can see the battle from here. You are winning against impossible odds. How do you do it? Heiwan smiled. We do it because you asked for help, Jiho. And humans always answer when someone calls for help. Colonel Seung-wan stood in the drop pod bay of the carrier Gwangju, checking his equipment one last time. Around him, 200 human Marines were doing the same. They had won the battle in space, but the real war was on the planet's surface, where Krellian ground forces still held most of the major cities. Listen up, Seung-wan called to his troops. The Krellians have been on this planet for 4 days. They have established defensive positions and taken hostages. Our job is to get the Verdani people out of there alive. Sergeant In-suk raised her hand. Sir, what about the Krellian soldiers? Standard rules of engagement, Seung-wan replied. Anyone who surrenders will be treated according to Galactic law. Anyone who fights will be stopped. Anyone who harms civilians will answer to me personally. The Marines nodded. They understood. This was not a mission of conquest or revenge. This was a rescue operation. Drop pods will land in 3 waves, Seung-wan continued. First wave secures the landing zones. Second wave moves to rescue civilians. Third wave provides support and medical aid. Questions? Marine Jin A, the unit's field surgeon, stepped forward. Sir, what do we know about Verdani physiology? If we need to treat wounded civilians, Dr. So-young has uploaded medical data to all medic units, Seung-wan replied. The Verdani are physically fragile compared to humans, but their biology is similar enough that our medical supplies should work. Scout Hyun-woo looked up from his intelligence briefing. Colonel, the Krellians have set up their main base in the Verdani capital city. They are using the government buildings as command centers and the civilian population as shields. Seung-wan's expression hardened. Using civilians as shields was against every rule of civilized warfare. But the Krellians had never been known for following rules. Admiral Heiwan has given us full authority for ground operations, he announced. The orbital bombardment platforms are destroyed, so we do not need to worry about fire from space. But the Krellians still have heavy ground vehicles and defensive emplacements. The drop pod bay shook as the ship maneuvered into position above the planet. Through the small windows, the Marines could see the curve of the Verdani homeworld below. From space, it looked peaceful and green. But they all knew that cities were burning down there. 30 seconds to drop, called the bay commander. Seung-wan activated his radio. All units, this is Colonel Seung-wan. Remember, we are here to help these people. Fight hard, but fight smart. Bring everyone home. The drop pods launched. The ride to the surface was violent and terrifying. The pods were designed to punch through any defensive fire and deliver troops directly to the battlefield. They fell like meteors, protected by armor and heat shields, carrying the most dangerous soldiers in the galaxy. Seung-wan's pod hit the ground in a forest outside the capital city. He kicked open the door and stepped out, his rifle ready. Around him, other pods were landing, and Marines were emerging to secure the area. Sound off, he called into his radio. First squad, all present, reported In-suk. Second squad, ready for action, called another sergeant. One by one, all the squads reported in. The first wave had landed successfully. Hyun-woo appeared beside Seung-wan, his scanner in hand. Colonel, I am reading Krellian patrol movements 2 kilometers to the east, and there are Verdani life signs in the city. Lots of them. How many Krellians? Hard to say. Their equipment is jamming some of our sensors, but I estimate at least 1,000 ground troops plus vehicles and weapons emplacements. Seung-wan nodded. 1,000 Krellian soldiers against 200 humans. By galactic standards, those were impossible odds. By human standards, it was a fair fight. Move out, he ordered. The Marines advanced through the forest toward the city. The Verdani homeworld was beautiful, with tall trees and colorful flowers, but it was also dangerous for most species. The gravity was higher than galactic standard, and the air contained toxins that would poison many aliens. For humans, it felt like home. As they moved through the forest, they encountered their first Verdani civilians. A family of 6 was hiding in a cave, too frightened to come out. They were tall and thin, with green skin and large eyes that showed their fear. Ginny approached them slowly, her medical scanner in hand. "Hello," she said in careful Galactic standard. "We are humans. We came to help you." The eldest Verdani, a female with intricate markings on her skin, stared at Ginny in amazement. "You are the ones who answered our call? But you are so small." Ginny smiled. "Small but effective. Are any of you injured?" "My youngest child has a breathing problem," the Verdani mother said. "The smoke from the burning city." Ginny quickly examined the young Verdani and administered medication from her field kit. Within minutes, the child was breathing normally again. "You will be safe now," Ginny told the family. "Stay in this cave until we return. We are going to clear the Krellians out of your city." As the Marines continued toward the city, they encountered more Verdani civilians. Some were wounded, others were just frightened, but all of them stared at the humans with mixture of hope and disbelief. "Why do they look at us like that?" asked one of the younger Marines. "Because most species think we are monsters," Insuk replied. "They have heard stories about Deathworlders. They expect us to be savage and cruel. But we are here to help them. That is what confuses them." The first real fighting began at the city's edge. Krellian patrol units had set up checkpoints to control access to the capital. When they saw the human Marines approaching, they opened fire with energy weapons and plasma cannons. The humans scattered for cover and returned fire. But this was not like the space battle. On the ground, human advantages were even more pronounced. Hyun-woo used his stealth equipment to circle behind the Krellian position. His sniper rifle could punch through Krellian armor at long range, and his shots were precise and deadly. Within minutes, he had eliminated 3 Krellian soldiers and created chaos in their ranks. Meanwhile, Insuk led her squad in a frontal assault. The Krellians were taller and stronger than humans, but they were not prepared for the intensity of human close combat. Insuk's Marines moved fast and hit hard, using grenades and assault rifles to overwhelm the enemy position. Checkpoint secured. Insuk reported. "Good work," Seungwon replied. "Advance to the next objective." As they moved deeper into the city, the Marines encountered something unexpected. A group of Verdani civilians was working with them, providing information about Krellian positions and safe routes through the city. Their leader was a young Verdani named Yelka, who spoke excellent Galactic standard and seemed unafraid of the human soldiers. "The Krellians have their main command post in the government building," Yelka explained. "They are holding over 1,000 Verdani hostages there." "How many guards?" Seungwon asked. "Maybe 50 soldiers, plus automated defenses. But there is another problem. The building has a self-destruct system. If the Krellians think they are going to lose, they might blow it up with all the hostages inside." Seungwon considered this. A direct assault would trigger the self-destruct system. They needed a different approach. "Hyun-woo, can you get close enough to disable their communications?" "Give me 20 minutes," the scout replied. While Hyun-woo worked on jamming Krellian communications, Jin'e set up a field hospital in an abandoned school. More and more wounded Verdani were being brought in, and she was working frantically to treat them all. Many of the injuries were from Krellian weapons, but some were from the initial bombing when the invasion began. Jin-ai had never treated an alien species before, but the medical data from Dr. So-young was helping her understand Verdani physiology. "Doctor," called one of her assistants, "we have a Krellian prisoner with severe injuries. What do you want me to do?" Jin-A looked at the wounded Krellian soldier. He had been captured during the checkpoint assault and was unconscious from blood loss. "Treat him," she said without hesitation. "But he is the enemy." "He is a patient," Jin-A replied, just as she had told the captured soldier on the ship. "We save everyone we can." As the sun set over the Verdani capital, Colonel Sung-Wan prepared for the final assault on the government building. Hyun-woo had successfully jammed Krellian communications, and the Marines had surrounded the building. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Yelka and her resistance fighters had found a way into the building through the old maintenance tunnels. "We can get your soldiers inside without triggering the defenses," Yelka explained. "But it will be dangerous. The tunnels are narrow and dark." "How narrow?" In-suk asked. "Too narrow for Krellians. But humans are smaller. You might fit." Sung-Wan smiled. Once again, being smaller and more adaptable was giving humans an advantage that larger species could not match. "Do it," he ordered. 2. Hours later, In-suk and her squad emerged inside the government building. The Krellian guards never saw them coming. Within minutes, the hostages were free, and the building was secure. As dawn broke over the Verdani capital, the last Krellian, forces were surrendering. The planet was free, and the people were safe. Sung-Wan stood on the steps of the government building, watching as Verdani families were reunited. Many of them stopped to thank the human soldiers, though they still seemed amazed that such small, strange creatures had saved them.